Thames, especially when the sun is shining, look to be glistening and beautiful and clean, but underneath it has a dark and murky underbelly, as our historian and boat race veteran Dan Snow has been discovering.
I grew up about a mile away from here, just on the south side of the River Thames, and we used to come down here all the time. I used to swim in here on hot summer days, and this is also where I learnt how to row. But little did I know at that point that from time to time, as we rowed past here, we'd be rowing through tons and tons of raw sewage. In the middle of the 19th century, London was facing a crisis. It had grown into a vast industrial city, absolutely teeming with people who relied for the most part on the Thames for drinking water and for the removal of their sewage. Waterborne diseases like cholera tore through the population of London, with mortality nearly as bad as the Black Death centuries before. Meanwhile, two students, one from Oxford and one from Cambridge, decided to organise a rowing race between the two universities. The first ever event was at Henley-upon-Thames, but it was so popular that it was moved here to Westminster so more people could watch. You can imagine what it must have been like just rowing through this concentrated filth, and it wouldn't have been too nice for the spectators either. It would have absolutely stank. No wonder they moved the race upriver to the greener pastures of Barnes, Mortlake and Putney. During the Great Stink of 1858, it became clear that things simply could not go on like this. The Houses of Parliament became so disgusting they had to soak the curtains in chloride. Rich people tried to escape the smell by having scented handkerchiefs they just hold over their noses. But it was a health risk to rich and poor alike, and something had to be done. A man called Joseph Bazalgette set about creating the first comprehensive network of sewers since the Romans left Britain well over 1,000 years before. He enclosed some of London's underground rivers, turning them into sewers, making sure that all the waste was directed towards the east end of London to a huge treatment plant at Beckton. And now, to make sure it didn't become overwhelmed during big storms, he also allowed runoffs into the Thames. And Bazalgette did predict a growth in the amount of sewage that London produces, but he could never predict that London would become a massive metropolis in the 21st century. And as a result, his sewage system is now being overwhelmed. Thames Water now have to pump 39 million tonnes of sewage into the Thames as an emergency measure each year. That means the rowers and scullers out there are yet again rowing in filth. Thames Water's solution is to construct a vast super sewer. It'll be one of the longest and deepest tunnels ever built in London. But much has changed since Bazalgette's day. Now the river is a much more desirable place to live, so there's plenty of resistance from residents who don't want the banks of the Thames turning into a building site. The bitter arguments will continue for years to come, and while they do, the sewage will keep on flowing. So spare a thought for that Cox who gets thrown in by his mates this afternoon.
Yes, what a prize for the winning Cox. Almost makes you want to steer straight into the bank, and this is as close as I'm going to get to rather grubby water. We may have high definition, but we don't yet have smelly vision. Now, the youngest member of